because we're trying to fit into a mold that is not ours. It's first is a European mold. Second of all, it's a white mold. Third of all, it's a young mold.
So damaging to impose such restriction on other human beings about what you have to look like, how you have to speak, how you have to behave.
Even when before Photoshop, right? You had all these pictures. What would they do to women? They pull off every hair off of you, right? They wax everything off of you. They bleach you. They change all these things.
We want to welcome everyone to our Pink Room XP standing for Exposed and Exposure. Today, our topic is the unreal and impossible expectations that are placed on women. Any one of you watched the movie Barbie, you saw that speech that America Ferrera gave about women and the unreal expectations that are placed upon them. And we want to play a clip of that speech because it was so powerful. And then go into discussing a little bit about it.
It's literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like, we have to always be extraordinary. But somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood, but always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged, so find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old. Never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard. It's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. And if all of that is also true for a doll, just representing a woman, then I don't even know.
This is so deep.
Mercy.
This is so deep. Like,
where do we start?
Where do we start? The impossible and unreal expectations that are placed on women. And remember, they place those expectations on us from the day we are born. The minute we come into this world, right? It's like we're shackled into, this is how you're supposed to be, do, act, look. All right. Let's go at it, ladies.
No, okay, wow. You said shackled. I love that.
I really feel that we are, because we're silenced. We're not supposed to share. We're not supposed to complain. But this is the path that we should follow. And I love the part that she said they expect you to have a career, but at the same time, you got to take care of everybody else. This has come to be so real to me in these in these years of my life. Like, you're doing a 9-to-5 and then you're coming home and expected to do another 9-to-5, right? Yeah. It's impossible.
Yeah.
The expectations are impossible. Our grandmothers, people always say, well, our grandmothers did it, our mothers did it. Those poor women.
Imagine.
What?
That's why they died before their time.
Yes, and
Many
had
of
so
them.
much internal turmoil and health issues
And we're
and
unhappy
emotionally, the depression, the anxieties, and no one could
The
label it
autoimmune
because they had
diseases
no.
that they
Oh,
developed.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we're conditioned. The first thing that gets pushed in your face is a tea set and a dolly and the playhouse.
And people
So
might
you're,
say, but what is wrong with that? It is wrong because you're telling women early on that they need to serve. You need to cook, you need to clean, you need to
yes,
serve. And there's something wrong with that picture because you're putting women always in this condition of being the help and having a master or masters that she must always. There is something wrong with that picture.
yes.
We're not
Absolutely.
saying everyone. We're not saying the boys can also have the tea and they need to learn. No, we're saying the
Right.
girl.
hmm
I know this is radical. A lot of people are going to be like, "What?
Yeah.
What are you saying?"
I think that when anybody who listens to that, whether you're a man or a woman, it should be a point of reflection, of the expectations. And let me go, even further. These are expectations that we embrace. We have an incredible opportunity here as women to denounce these things and to say, you know, I yeah, it's important that I'm in good standing with people because we all have relationships and we all, the reality is that deep down inside, all of us want to be liked. But some of us, don't know where to stop. And I think that is where we need to really sit this and look at it. What am I doing in order to be liked? Is it getting up and serving people? Because if I sit, what are they going to think of me? I really think that this is a moment that we take this narrative and do something about it and not perpetuate this idea that we have to be everything for everyone. That, if you don't want to get up and serve people, then and you're not gonna look as a good hostess. How do you take control of that? By either saying, I'm fine with that, people can think whatever they want of me, or yeah, they're gonna think, either way, whichever I do, they're still going to have their opinion of me, and I know that's a very difficult line to cross, because the reality is that deep down inside, we all want to be liked. We all want to be accepted. We all want, and when people say, oh, I just, now I don't care about what people think. I think psychologically that is untrue, because we all have connections to other human beings. We don't live as hermits. We do interact with other people. And at some level, we do expect to be liked, and unfortunately that's just tied to how we come across, how we serve people, and I think about that. I think about all of your jobs, right? Why are you liked at work, Norca? Because you
I don't
serve
think,
people.
Teresa, I'm going
I
to
know.
push back on you. I feel that for women, this idea of being nice and likable is more. I think that guys, they don't go through life feeling they wanting to be liked. I have slowly divorced myself from the idea that I want people to like me, because I think it gets in the way of doing what's right.
And and I mean,
You know what I mean?
I agree
But
with
I get what I totally get what you're saying. Because there's always that inner struggle. But when you have to stand up for something that is right, you cannot look to see who
absolutely
like you or not.
I
And I think
totally
women, right? And I think for women, this is the reason why we don't stand up for more things.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. That it is that. I don't know where that comes from. Like where do we
conditioned, Teresa? I think
you're conditioned
from very early on. Let me just give you an example.
Be seen and not heard.
And
right. And then little girls are always told to somebody, oh, kiss that person, hug your uncle, hug your
Yeah.
grandma.
Well, you know what? These generations aren't doing it anymore.
Good for
You know,
them.
Right.
yeah. And I went to,
Right.
because you know, I have 2 grandkids, and we were, you know, we've consciously moved in the direction of being of making those changes, because we did, you know, we were used to like, yeah, go kiss that person or go, you know, and now it's like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it, right?
That's right.
Very very, and I'm very happy that that's the case, because it is, it's parents wanting to be liked, so their kids need to be nice.
Yeah.
But
So
you know,
we're so
one
they
of the things that I want to say, you know, in with this thought that I, you know, that I was sharing, is this, you know, the thing is that the moment that you start to be more, you know, intentional about doing the things that you consider are the correct ones, right? That what's ethical for you, um, and you are not concerned about, you know, how people are going to perceive you, but you do what's right because it's right, right? Then for the majority of women, I'm not saying that this happens with every woman, but for the majority of women, you start to be perceived as more masculine.
Yep.
You know, you start to be perceived as more masculine, and you are not, you know, as feminine, because
Favorable.
feminine, you know, has been associated with
Weak,
serving,
less
with
than,
with
subservient.
condescending to, you know, or
Mhm.
accommodating, right?
Right.
And masculinity is like, you know, is considered to be, you know, an assertive state of mind, right? An assertive,
Right.
and
Power.
it is acceptable for men to be
Mhm.
assertive, but it's not acceptable for women to be assertive,
Yeah.
right? You know, people see you differently.
But I think, Teresa, something you had said in a previous peak room where, and as in your field, both you and Norca, in the education field, where you have the opportunity to influence people from an educational perspective, where you said you're teaching the boys and the girls
Right.
simultaneously
Right.
what it is that they should be doing to contribute, and Norca in the previous one, the humanity, right? It's not about just your role as a male or your gender as a male. And I think that when we begin to look at it from that angle, we know that it makes things a little bit easier. I remember when my niece was growing up, I only have one. When she was growing up, I started that if you're not comfortable giving someone a hug or speaking, it is okay because you are comfortable. People would look at
Mm-hmm.
me and I would say, she doesn't want to give you a hug. She doesn't want to
Yeah.
shake your hand. She doesn't want to speak to you. Respect her. The same way you don't want to speak and you don't want to talk and you don't want to do things. Respect her. Not because she's this little girl is it expected that she's just obedient to you because you're superior or
Exactly.
you have power or you're an adult or you're a male, even women. I taught that to her very young. If you are not comfortable, you do not have to and don't feel any way. You can just stand and look. I said, silence is a good thing. And she's doing that with her children. She's teaching them the same thing.
You
Same
know
thing.
the damage, Sean, that we have done when we have used little girls as tokens of appreciation.
Yeah.
I I I I remember, being in congregations, and sometimes you may say hello to a child, and the child might not answer. And you don't. I understand you don't want the child to be rude,
Right.
uh, but forcing the child to no, you must. That doesn't work either, right?
Nope.
What we do with that is that we're basically saying to them, your feelings, what you're, because I'm sure the child at that moment is experiencing feeling something, but
Right.
they're not in the mood, right?
Yep.
Not to say that you can go through life moody. We need to help people to manage that. But instead of
Correct.
helping them to manage that, what we're saying is no, you need to be nice regardless.
Regardless.
Regardless. Be nice, follow protocol. What we're doing is creating, again, we're biting into that culture of silence. We're not
Absolutely.
teaching girls to say, I am hungry right now, or I am somebody pushed me and I'm not happy. We're not teaching them how to express their feelings, but what we're saying to them is you need to put on an act, pretend, and follow the protocol and be nice.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And then we wonder why so many women are depressed. right? Because we have put all these veils and these layers of silence and covering on them, and these shackles of and lanes in which they must run and be, that it has just impacted our entire lives. And to Teresa's point, I totally understand you, Teresa. People have a different reaction to a male leader than they do to a female leader.
Yeah.
And I do not ascribe to women who are mean in the workplace. I think there are other ways of doing it, but I understand sometimes why they are.
But see, that's the thing. You know, when we're assertive, we're not perceived as assertive. We're perceived as bossy and mean.
Hey, there we go.
Yes.
The point I want to make here is more about how, as a woman, I know that, you know, the moment that you make people uncomfortable, you will get that pushback. You know, it's like, and that is a place where we struggle to be as women. As women, we struggle to be in that place.
But I wanted us to talk a little bit about the beauty standards before we close and talk about damage control. This idea that you need to be thin, but to be healthy, but not because, you know, this idea that your hair must be in a certain way, or you must wear your clothes in a, you know, let's talk a little bit about the beauty standard and the impossible expectations of the beauty standard and how it really is counter to who we really are as women. Because we're trying to fit into a mold that is not ours. It's first is a European mold. Second of all, it's a white mold. Third of all, it's a young mold. Are there more molds? We don't fit. We do not fit.
Even women who are in that, who are, you know, that Caucasian, right, and young and all that, even they don't fit.
That's true.
We're talking about, you know, we're talking about some idealized form of a, because even the women that they put in front of us in commercials, and, you know, modeling and everything, they've all had something nip tucked, you know, stretched, you know, piled on makeup, you know, these are like unreal. Like women like this do not exist. Even before Photoshop, right? You had all these pictures. What would they do to women, right? I mean, they pull off every hair off of you, right? They wax everything off of you. They make you look, you know,
like a little girl.
They bleach you. They change all these things, and it's the most. I mean, it's sad. It's sad that from the beginning of time, women have been manipulated to look the way men want them to look, right? And this has been from day one, right? You know, and I think that it's more of a fantasy, and when we understand that that's a fantasy, that's unreal, that there's no way that women are going to look that way, you know, because you know, I look at all of the issues that young women are having right now, especially our teen girls, with, you know, social media, all the filtering, right? And you know, I have friends of my age who are using filters.
Wow.
And I feel, because I see, you know, like I don't use like, you know, Instagram and Facebook anymore, but I do have WhatsApp, and you know how you choose your profile picture,
right?
And you know, and you can use a filter there, right?
Right.
And I know that they're my age. I know that, you know, they're already into the wrinkle stage of their life, and they have, you know, and these pictures are like flawless. And and the problem with that is just like, you know, the issue with when we you know, we're using masks, we still had people that for years after we didn't have to wear masks, people were experiencing facial dysmorphia, right? They didn't recognize themselves when they saw themselves without the mask. And this is happening with a lot of young girls, and you know, women all ages, unfortunately, that they see themselves in the mirror and they don't recognize themselves because they're used to seeing all of themselves in filters, right? So
and don't like themselves, Teresa. Don't recognize and don't like what they see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Let's do a little investigative journalism.
Go for
What
it.
are the origins of beauty defined?
Well,
who and why, right?
Mm.
So that I like to look at things like where was this created? What happened?
Yeah.
And it is so damaging to impose such restrictions on other human beings about what you have to look like, how you have to speak, how you have to behave, what your son. It is so miserable. It is so damaging. And it has caused so many girls generation. I almost feel like it's a part of the DNA. Not that I'm going to ask anybody to claim it and that it is in their DNA, but it's so damaging because it starts younger and younger, and some generations are just still believing the fallacy that a girl should act, look, feel, dress a certain way. It's sad because you grow up as an adult and you are just so miserable because you were so restricted, the shackles, you choking
Mm-hmm.
based on someone else is feeding you this toxin.
Yeah. So let's go into damage control. How do we repair? What are some things that we can do in our little neck of the woods to start checking ourselves, checking and repairing and controlling the damage that is being done?
And I think that, this particular movie, the Barbie movie, I think they did a really good job at really focusing on the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is that we all want to be seen, all of us, men and women want to be seen. We all want to be seen as valuable, right? And it's unfortunate that we consider some people to have won the lottery, the genetic lottery, when they look like, Barbie, or they look like Ken. I watched the entire movie, and by doing that, I think the message that I was left with was all of us want to be valued. Every single one of us want to be perceived as people of value, no matter what you look like. And I can't even imagine for human beings who have some deformity, some something. I have like one particular student who has a very large mole on their face. I want to share this with you just really quick. I had somebody else from their class like Photoshop the mole out of
Oh,
the picture, and I said, hey, that's wrong. I said, and I called that student out. I say that's wrong. Because what if somebody would put because this other student has this beautiful skin tone. It's just gorgeous. They're a very beautiful person. And I said, would you like somebody, whitewashing you and filtering your skin color? That would be wrong, right? Yeah. And they're like, yeah, they recognize that what they had done was wrong. And I think that that's our job, to make sure that when we see something like that we call it out, that we don't let this go, that we don't, when we see people being praised by their beauty, that we make a change. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned as a woman. Now, when I see somebody, I don't focus on their exterior beauty. If I want to compliment them, I find something about them, as a person, to compliment them. And that's the way I'm changing the narrative. That's the way I'm doing, damage control. I'm making sure that when I praise a student, that when I want to acknowledge them, that it's not based on, and even with my granddaughter and my grandson, I do tell them that I consider them, beautiful people, but that's not the focus anymore, because that used to be, right. I remember this one lady. I mean, she's recently passed away, but she was like in her 80s, and she says, she told me this because I had two girls, right. She says, never let anybody tell one or the other that they're more beautiful than the other, because one time somebody said that to me, in front of me. They told my sister how beautiful she was, and they never acknowledged me. And look, she was in her 80s when she told me this. Like, it still affected her, right? And so I think that the more we this generation right now helps the next generation find their value outside of the physical realm, the better off they're going to be. But unfortunately, we have an uphill battle with social media, because social media is telling them that it's all about how they look. So how do we damage control? I think we make it, our personal, life challenge to make sure that we're telling people something about them, something about who they are as an individual, and not acknowledge. Because when I see my friends, sometimes I know that I still do. Hey, you look great, right? I mean, and oh, I love that dress on you, or you look so nice. I love your hair, right? We do that. I mean, I grew up with that. And so I just making myself more aware of how I express, admiration, or how I express, how I give compliments, is definitely something that I'm doing myself. But that's just one way I think that I could make the next generation more and healthier regarding their how they see themselves as women.
Yeah.
Oh, the damage control can come from so many different angles and so many different layers. But Teresa, I love your point. That's food for thought for me. I think I'd like to use that as a damage control also, that you not always praise people for what they're wearing and how they appear. And, I think we can acknowledge their inner beauty and, help people understand that just because you have on the latest version of some eyeglasses or the latest, iPhone or Jordans, it's that doesn't make you this amazing person, right? You're just wearing something materialistic that devalues anyway. So I think looking at the inside of a person and acknowledging who they are from the inside is definitely some damage control. And in terms of social media, I'd like to start, instead of posting always on those beautiful things, those aesthetics, acknowledge the words that people speak that are affirming.
Well, for me, the damage control is going to be a little bit different, in the sense that I believe that each one of us as women, we need to divorce ourselves from the idea that we are to be liked by everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone will like us, and we need to be okay with that. It's okay.
Sure,
I always say I'm not for everybody. It's okay.
And that there's that saying in Spanish, right? No soy monedita de oro para caerle bien a todos.
That's right.
I just want to say this, as much as I think that's an ideal, I think that the majority of us, and I speak for myself, we struggle with that.
Absolutely.
And I think that recognizing it is like super important. But this is what I was sharing with a student, because, we do stuff because we want people to like us, right? So I deal with a lot of kids who, end up with behaviors that are inappropriate because they want to be liked, right? And I said, it's not that you don't care what people think of you. It's that you don't let it influence what you do. Right. Because we all, at some level, care about what other people think of us. But I think that it has to be as you were saying earlier, Norca, it really is a matter of saying, I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing, right? The integrity. So am I putting on, I don't know, whatever it is that I'm doing, am I doing it for the right reasons, or am I doing it for other people to like me? And I think that that's where we all need to really sit with ourselves. And when we make those decisions, whatever it is, if it's a post on social media, like, of yourself and, with a filter or without a filter, I don't, or if you're exercising to be in better health, are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it because you just feel like you're not attractive anymore? I don't know. And those are things that I'm sharing because I question, myself, why am I doing things? And I want to sit with myself more in that, to really just ask those questions and hopefully be true to myself and be happier.
So going back to the idea of divorcing ourselves from what people think about us, and two things, you mentioned one, sitting with what is the reason behind why I'm doing. That's important, right? Because if you're just doing it to get likes, because that's the big thing now. Everybody wants likes. Everybody, you're going to do it for the wrong reason. The second thing that we also need to realize is that, who do we really want to like us? who do we really want? Is it just people on a network, on my LinkedIn, on my Facebook, on my Instagram? Who exactly? And what exactly do we want from that liking, right? So I think we need to sit with that more, because that idea of I need people to like me could carry us down a very dangerous path.
Absolutely.
And then a path filled with issues with mental wellness, because now I'm depressed because they don't like me. I can't do the right thing because they're not going to like it. I can't say that I got to, it impacts our lives in so many ways. So I really hope that as when we start divorcing from ourselves from that idea, and then we don't present ourselves genuinely in spaces because we're worried about what other people think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is a
Absolutely.
clear point. That was my damage control.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for, just bringing that, giving closure to that thought. I just wanted to share that, when I was saying that we need to change our narrative, like we have to change the way we we talk to people, that what we expect from people and how we praise people that we come in contact with. And one of the I know that this is very powerful and that it actually has some effect. When people speak out and say, hey, it's more important that you focus on the person and not their exterior, it, that you can see the changes. And I know that, I'm into movies. I've, kind of talked to you guys about, that's one of my passions. When I watch the Oscars and everybody coming on the red carpet, one of the first things that they used to ask the women is, "What are you wearing?" Right? And you look so great tonight.
Who's the designer?
Who's your designer? And women, the women actors began speaking out about this and saying, "Hey, why don't we get any good questions? Why are we just asked about who we're wearing and what we look like?" And there has been a consistent change in the questions that are asked. Now I hear, when I see these interviews, I hear men being asked, hey, so who's your designer, right? And it's not only the women, but it used to be that women were only asked those questions and the men were asked like more of a, hey, what was it like, to do these stunts or whatever, right? The narrative is changing. We have to continue to speak out. We have to be the catalyst, to make sure that the people that we come in contact with are being recognized, valued, etc., for what is truly important. And that is who they are as people. And this is coming in education. This is kind of one of the things that I wanted to share. Some of the trainings that we've been getting recently, we used to use the word, "Oh, I'm so proud of your progress." No, you take out the word proud, because proud is a word that's connected to merit, right? And what you do is you tell the student, I'm so happy to see how you're progressing, how you're putting forth an effort, because what you're telling the student is, hey, you're happy, I see that you're happy, and that makes me happy, that to see you happy. Very different from I'm proud of you, because when you are acknowledging that state that individual is in is something that it's theirs. You do not rob them from that achievement by telling them, okay, now it's my achievement because I'm proud of you, right?
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, so much. We could go on forever with this, and such great ideas, Teresa, because I think they apply even in regular realms. Not only I'm one that I'm prone to say I'm proud of you. Now I'm going to revisit the way I do that. But this has been a great discussion. Could be a part 2, part 3, and there's so many added layers to it. So we hope that we hear from you, that you post your comments and let us know what you think. And if there are topics that you think we can talk about, share that with us. But once again, we thank you for joining us in Pink Room XP.